Hey guys, it's great to see you again and welcome to our IELTS exam preparation. Before we start our 7th lesson, try to remember some useful material that you learned from the previous 3 lessons. In which ways could it possibly be useful for you? Do you think it can help you pass the exam? Just think about it for a while. And now let's go further. In today's listening, we're going to learn how to identify main ideas and how to understand how ideas are actually connected together.
So, before you do some of the exercises, read some tips that can help you complete them. Focus on the main points of a talk. The questions in the listening paper will focus on the main points made by the speakers. So it is important to be able to identify the main points of a talk. Remember who the speaker is and why they are talking. At the start of each talk, you will be told who the speaker is and why they are talking. You won't be tested on this, but you can use this information to get a clear idea of the situation. This can help you to concentrate and follow the information in the talk. Listen carefully to the speaker. Do not omit the details. As you already know, the questions in the IELTS listening paper do focus on the main points of the talk. But something you should also know is, in between the points, the speaker may also mention things that are not directly related to the main purpose of the talk. So do your best to listen carefully to the speaker and get their message completely. Be ready to complete a summary. You may be asked to complete a summary in the listening paper. This can look difficult, so it will help to break down the information. Don't be worried about technical terms. Don't be worried if you see technical terms in the listening questions. These will usually be explained to you. And now, listen to part of a talk and complete the task.
Recording 27.
Good morning, everyone. My name is John, and I'm a paleontologist. Now, when most people hear that, they immediately get an image of an old professor studying dried-up dinosaur bones, or else they think of a great adventurer from the movies. Well, I'm neither. But I would like to talk to you today about how I came to be a paleontologist and the reason I believe it is an important job. All my life, my main interest has been the environment. So I actually started out as an ecology student. As part of my degree course, I had to do a unit on extinction, and a lecturer visiting from another university gave us a talk on Australia's extinct animals. One of the animals he talked about was called the diprotodon. It's an ancestor of the modern Australian wombat. He described this enormous animal crossing ancient lakes, getting stuck in the mud and becoming part of the fossil record, which is what we call the preserved remains of animals and plants that we find. And I was fascinated. So fascinated that I immediately changed courses. But paleontology isn't all easygoing. The very first field trip I went on was pretty awful. We went to an outback fossil site and we were digging in extreme conditions. I've learned since that that's pretty standard for work like this. But to make matters worse, after 5 days I'd found nothing. I was getting really disheartened, and I was starting to regret my decision when, on the last day of the trip, I was digging into the bank of an ancient dried-up riverbed.
In today's reading, we're going to learn how to match features and how to deal with multiple choice questions.
Before you do some reading, read some tips that can help you complete the tasks. Be ready to deal with theories and comments. Matching features tasks are used with reading passages that contain theories or comments about different people, places, years, and things. For these tasks, the different options are listed in a box and you need to match them to the questions. The questions will not be in the same order as the passage. For some questions, you may need to match a person to a study or an action rather than a theory or opinion. Scan the passage carefully. For matching features tasks, the questions will not be in the same order as in the passage. The people mentioned may appear in several different sections. You need to scan the whole passage carefully. Some of the people in the list may be distractors, and you may not need to use all of the letters. Read carefully connected sentences. To answer multiple choice questions, you often need to carefully read two or more connected sentences or several connected sentences. Be ready for different types of multiple choice questions. Some multiple choice questions begin with a direct question and then have 4 possible answers. Some begin with an incomplete sentence and then have 4 possible endings. Be ready to identify a writer's purpose. Sometimes multiple choice questions ask you to consider the writer's purpose or aim. You may be asked to identify why the writer made a particular reference, what the purpose of a part of the text is, or the opinion or attitude of the writer. Consider the writer's tone and attitude. To answer these questions, you need to consider more than the surface meaning of the words in the reading passage. You need to consider the writer's tone or attitude. And now, read this text. Complete these tasks which are related to the text you've read.
In today's speaking, we're going to continue practicing and improving speaking skills.
Before you start speaking, read the following tips. Feel free to use them to organize your speaking. Give an adequate, full, and grammatically correct answer. The examiner will ask you some more questions on familiar topics. Listen carefully to the questions. Use the correct tense for each answer and include some relevant vocabulary. Use your preparation time wisely. Use the 1-minute preparation time to think about your topic and what you will say. Make notes on each point. Be mentally and intellectually prepared. Start speaking when it's time for you to do that. Introduce your topic, link your ideas, and aim to speak for 2 minutes. Speak clearly and at a natural speed so that the examiner can understand you. Use stress and intonation to highlight important information and feelings. And now, describe an interesting story that you heard or read about in the news. You should say when you heard or read about the story, what the story was about, why the story was in the news, and explain why you thought the story was
In today's writing, we are going to learn how to plan and organize one's ideas.
These are some useful tips that can help you do that. Make a plan before you start writing. Before you begin to write, it's important to make a plan. If you don't do this, your ideas will be disorganized and you will lose marks. Consider how much time you can spend on the task. The score you get for writing task 2 is 2/3 of your total writing score, so it is very important that you spend a full 40 minutes on this part of the IELTS writing paper. You are given more time than for writing task 1 because you need to write 250 words and also because you have to use your own ideas. Spend at least 4 or 5 minutes planning your ideas before you start writing. Do these things to achieve a good task response. The examiner will mark your writing task 2 based on specific criteria. One of these is task response. To achieve a good task response score, you must do the following things. Explain your own opinions on the topic. Support your opinions. Include only relevant ideas. Write 250 words. Study people's personal opinions on the letters page of the newspaper. Articles that contain opinions can give you ideas that you can use in the writing tasks. The letters page of the newspaper usually contains people's personal opinions about different topics. Read them and decide whether you agree or disagree. Decide what your own opinion is. Make sure your ideas are clearly connected. Your answer will also be marked on coherence. Make sure your ideas are clearly connected. Your answer will also be marked on coherence. You need to make sure your ideas are organized into separate paragraphs. To help group your ideas together logically, make notes under different headings that show both sides of the discussion. These can then form the middle paragraphs of your answer. Start by restating the question in your own words. Once you have your ideas planned out, you can begin to write. Your answer must be clearly developed, and so it needs a clear start. The best way to start is by restating the question in your own words. Do not copy words from the question. You will lose marks if you copy words from the question. Make sure to paraphrase the ideas. Be ready to show flexible use of language. Don't learn whole answers and expect to use them in the exam. You will receive a very low score if you do this. Candidates who receive a higher band score in writing are able to show flexible use of language. The more you practice